Hello, everyone. Hello, beautiful souls. Oh, welcome to Soulful Saturdays with Saylor. Around here, we cut through the noise, ditch the fluff, and dive straight into what matters: spiritual wellness, radical self acceptance, and unapologetic soulful living. Each week, I'll bring you truth with a side of sass, reflections that wake you up, and reminders that you are glorious. So, whether you've got your journal, your coffee, or that wild, messy bun, you are exactly where you need to be. All right, beautiful souls. I want you to come sit with me for a second. I want you to take a breath with me. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Good. Now let's talk about something real. Trust isn't that trust isn't that magical moment that shows up with fireworks and perfect timing. Like some big cosmic sign that says, "Yes, darling, this is it." Nope. That's not how it works. Trust is a decision. It's quiet, sometimes uncomfortable decision that you make in the middle of your life when nothing feels fully clear. But something inside you whispers, "This way." And you pause. Because this way doesn't always make sense on paper. It's choosing differently, even when the old way is calling your name like an ex that you know you shouldn't answer. But for some reason, you still look at that phone. Don't lie. I see you. It's walking a new path. When the old one feels familiar, safe, predictable, but deep down, it's misaligned. And that's the part that we don't talk about enough. Familiar is not the same thing, right? Comfortable is not the same thing as aligned. And just because we've walked a path for years doesn't mean your soul is still meant to live there. And let me tell you something, my beautiful soul. Your soul will never lead you wrong. Never. And here's where we get tripped up. We start outsourcing our trust. We will ask 10 people what they think. We replay conversations. We wait for validation. We look for permission slips from people who are not living our life. And in doing that, we slowly start ignoring the one voice that actually matters: yours. Because deep down, you already know. You always have. You've just learned how to stop talking yourself out of it. And then, right here, right in this moment, that's where your compass starts coming back online. It's because we have learned how to stop talking yourself out of it. We've got to stop doing that. We've got to start trusting ourselves because our compass knows the way. And it will come back online as long as we take a moment and listen. So, all right, let's get real for a minute, like really real, because this is where we stop sugarcoating and start telling the truth. So, why don't you come a little closer? Oh, why don't you take another sip of that coffee? Because I'm going to call this out and I'm going to do it with a lot of sailor sass. Because what this really looks like in your life, it's not always obvious. It's sneaky. It hides behind words that sound good, look good, feel good. But underneath, it's misalignment. It looks like people pleasing. Dressed up is kindness. You say things like, "Oh, I'm just being nice. I don't mind. It's really not a big deal." But let me lovingly call you out. It is a big deal because you're overextending yourself. You're saying yes when your energy is already depleted. You're showing up for everyone else while quietly disappearing from your own life. And then you wonder why you feel drained, resentful, or just off. And then there's this one, over giving to avoid conflict. This one hits. You tell yourself, it's just easier if I do it. I don't feel like dealing with the tension. Or you might also say, I'll just handle it. And in that moment, yeah, it feels easier, but let's be honest. You're not choosing peace. You're avoiding discomfort because real peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from honesty. And every time you choose easy over true, you make a little withdrawal from your self-trust account. And this one right here, this is the one that breaks my heart the most. Losing yourself in the name of harmony. You say, I don't want any tension. Or you might say, I just want everyone to be okay. Or how about, I'll go with whatever works for them. But what you don't say out loud is, even if it doesn't work for me. And now there may be no tension in the room, but there's tension inside of you. And feel it in your chest, in your thoughts, in that quiet moment at night when you're replaying the day. Why did I say yes to that? Why didn't I just say how I felt? And here's the kicker. Most of the time, you don't even realize you're doing it because it feels normal. It's how you've always operated. It's how you've kept relationships. It's how you've avoided rejection, conflict, disconnection. So your brain says, this is just who I am. But let me interrupt that real quick. Normal does not mean aligned. Just because something is familiar doesn't mean it's healthy. Just because you've always done it doesn't mean it's who you're meant to keep being. And here's the truth. I need you to hear this. Every single time you overwrite that inner voice, that quiet nudge that says, this doesn't feel right, you chip away at your own self-trust. Not all at once, not in some dramatic, obvious way, but little by little, until one day you're sitting there thinking, I don't even know what I want anymore. I don't even trust my own decisions. And it's not because you don't have the inner knowing. It's because you've been practicing and ignoring it. But here's the good news, my love. If you've practiced ignoring yourself, you can practice listening again. And that's where everything starts to change. So now that we've lovingly have called it out, let's not stay stuck there, because awareness without a shift, that just turns into guilt. And we're not doing that here. We are doing alignment. So take another breath with me. In through the nose, out through the mouth, because here's where everything starts to turn. Boundaries are not walls. Yeah, let's let that land for a second. Boundaries are not walls. because I know what you've been thinking. If I set boundaries, people are going to think I'm cold. Or they might think that if I say no, I'm going to hurt someone. If I stop doing all of this, am I going to lose people? And listen, I get it, but we've got to rewrite this. Boundaries are not walls, they are anchors. They don't push people away, they keep you grounded. Think about an anchor for a second. The water can move, the waves can come, the current can shift, but the boat, it doesn't drift off into places it was never meant to go. That's what a boundary does for you. It says, I can be in this relationship. I can be in this conversation. I can be in this moment without losing myself. And here's the part that I really want you to hear. You do not have to become hard to finally stand firm. No, it's that's the big thing. Because some of you think that your only options are be the nice one who says yes to everything, or turn into someone you don't even recognize just to protect your peace. No, ma'am. There's middle ground. There's a powerful, grounded, soft place where you can be. And that's being loving, present, compassionate, and still say, this doesn't work for me. With no attitude, no over explaining, no guilt spiral afterwards. It's just truth. And let's talk about that for a second. Because why do we feel the need to over explain anything? You say no, and then suddenly you're writing a whole novel to justify it. My schedule is crazy and I've got this and that, and maybe next week, and I just feel bad. And take a pause, take a breath. You don't need a speech. A grounded no is a complete sentence. A calm, that doesn't work for me, is enough. And the more you practice saying it, the less heavy it feels. Now, here's where it gets really powerful. When you start showing up with these kinds of boundaries, your relationships start to shift. Not because you're controlling anyone, but because you're finally showing up as your true self. And the right people, they don't run from that. They adjust, they respect, they meet you there. And the ones who don't, let's just say this with just a little love, they were more comfortable with the version of you that had no boundaries. Okay, that's so powerful, and I want you to hear it. They were more comfortable with the version of you that had no boundaries. This is where trust comes back online. Not because everyone around you changes overnight, but because you do. You start listening to yourself. You start honoring what you feel. You stop abandoning yourself in tiny, invisible ways. And suddenly, you're not as exhausted. You're not as resentful. You're not lying in bed replaying every conversation. You feel steady, grounded, anchored. And that, my beautiful souls, that is what it looks like to trust yourself enough to choose differently. So this is where things are going to get real, because everything we've talked about, it sounds good. It feels empowering. But the question is always, okay, what does this look like in my actual life? So let's go there. You know, that moment someone asks you for something could be your time, your energy, your presence. And before you even think about it, your mouth says, sure. But your body is tight, heavy, and a little voice inside going, oh, I don't want to do this. Yeah, that moment. That right there, that's the gap between alignment and approval. And most of us have been living in the gap for a long time. Admit it. Be honest with yourself. So let's rewrite it. Same moment, same ask, and this time you pause. And I mean a real pause, not the fake pause where you already know that what you're going to say. You take a breath. And instead of reacting, you respond, and it sounds like this. Let me get back to you. Hmm, wow, simple and powerful. Let me get back to you. Because what you just did, you gave yourself space to check in with you. Or maybe it sounds like, I can't commit to that right now. Notice what's missing. No apology spiral, no over explaining, no trying to make them feel better about your decision, just the truth. And let's talk about another one, because this one shows up in relationships all the time. Someone says something that doesn't sit right with you. The old version of you smiles, nods, keeps the peace, then replies it late, like then replays it later thinking, that bothered me. The new version of you, still calm, still grounded, and you say, hey, I want to circle back to something that you said earlier. It didn't sit right with me. Whew, that's a soft boundary. You didn't attack. You didn't shut down. You stayed connected without abandoning yourself. And let me tell you something important. Soft boundaries, they change conversations. Because now you're not showing up as the version of you that's trying to be liked. You're showing up as the version of you that's being real. And real creates depth. Real creates respect. Real creates relationships that actually feel good to be in. Now, let's be honest for a second. The first few times you do this, it's going to feel uncomfortable. You might feel guilty. You might second guess yourself. You might even want to backtrack and say, oh, never mind, it's fine. Don't. That's comfort. That's not you doing something wrong. That's you doing something new. Because for so long, your identity has been tied to being the reliable one, the easy one, the one who keeps everything together. So when you start choosing differently, it shakes things up a little, but not in a bad way. It's an honest way. And here's the most powerful part of it all. When you start setting those soft, grounded boundaries, you don't lose connection, you deepen it. Because now people are getting the real you, not the overextended version, not the exhausted version, not the silently resentful version, the aligned version. And yes, let's say it out loud. Some people might not like it. Some people might question it. Some people might even push back. But that information, it's not failure because the people who are meant to be in your life, they don't need you to abandon yourself to stay connected. They're willing to meet you in truth. So this week, I want you to notice your moments, not fix everything overnight, not become a boundary setting queen by Tuesday. Just notice, where do you say yes when you mean no? Where do you stay quiet when you want to speak? Where do you choose approval over alignment? And in just one of those moments, I want you to pause, breathe, and try something differently. Even if your voice shakes a little, even if it's messy, even if it just is, let me think about it. You could just say that, let me think about it. Because that's how trust is rebuilt. Not in big dramatic declarations, but in small, brave, aligned choices. And that, my love, is how you stay connected to others without disconnecting from yourself. All right. So let's talk about what actually starts to change when you begin living this way. Because this isn't just about saying no more. It's not about becoming rigid or cutting people off. It's about becoming aligned. And when you do, everything starts to feel different. First, your relationships feel cleaner. Hmm. You you know what I mean by that. There's no weird energy, no unspoken tension, no smiling on the outside while something feels off on the inside, because you're not holding things in anymore. You're expressing, you're honoring, you're showing up honestly. And that creates clarity. Second, that heavy feeling that you've been carrying, yeah, the one you couldn't quite name, that resentment, it starts to dissolve. Because resentment doesn't come from other people. It comes from the moment you abandoned yourself. Whew. I'm just going to let that one sit there for a second. Wow. It comes from the moments that you abandon yourself. Every time you said yes when you meant no. Every time you stayed quiet when you had something to say. That feeling. Yeah. And now you're choosing differently. So there's nothing building underneath the surface anymore. There's space. There's breath. There's peace. And here's the big one. Your compass stays intact. You're not spinning. You're not overthinking every little decision. You're not lying in bed replaying conversations like it's your full-time job. Instead, you feel steady, grounded, clear, because you're not asking everyone else what you should do. You're listening to yourself. And let me tell you something. That kind of self-trust, it changes everything. You walk differently. You speak differently. You show up differently. Not louder, not harsher, just truer. So here's what I want you to do this week. Before you respond to anything, a text, a request, a conversation, pause just for a moment. Take a breath and ask yourself, is this coming from alignment or approval? Don't rush the answer. Don't overthink it. Your body will tell you. Your gut already knows. And then be brave enough to listen, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's different, even if it surprises you, because that's your compass speaking. So let me leave you with this. You don't need more proof. You don't need more validation. You don't need to ask 5 more people what you think. You need more permission from yourself. And guess what? You already have it. So here's your moment of truth. I want you to ask yourself this question. Where in my life am I ready to choose differently? Not someday, not when it's easier, not when everyone agrees. Now. Start small if you need to, but start. So ask yourself the question, where in my life am I ready to choose differently? So I'd like you to say this with me. And don't just say it, I want you to feel it. I trust myself enough to choose the life that aligns with my soul. And again, I trust myself enough to choose the life that aligns with my soul. Yes, yes, you do. So you may doubt your voice sometimes, but your soul, it never doubts you. Your compass is not lost. It's waiting for you to listen. And that, my beautiful souls, is how you trust yourself enough to choose differently. And that, my friends, is our latest episode of Soulful Saturdays with Saylor, trusting yourself enough to choose differently. Thank you for tuning in, beautiful souls. Take this week to listen to the whispers and remember your soul knows the way. And as you move through your week, carry this truth in your heart. You are worthy. You are radiant. You and your presence matters. And never forget, stay soulful, stay sassy, stay you. I'll see you next Saturday, beautiful souls. Same time, same vibe, same glorious energy.